Peter Bay from groSolar is here tonight. Rod Vienna is here tonight from groSolar as well. They will give an overview, a presentation, then be available to answer questions. The select board, Chris Fenton, Patty Kenyon, Jim Weber way in back in camouflage trying to hide amongst the populace. Myself, Jerry Redfield, Herb Childers out of town. Kimberly, thank you very much. We need to thank the elementary school for the use of this room tonight. Thank Kimberly. She's going to moderate this meeting for us. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And the purpose of the meeting, we'll go through the presentation on the proposed solar project. The select board, just like you folks, we want to hear and gather more information. And that's the purpose of this meeting here, to learn and gather information, because eventually down the road, we will make a decision as to whether we support the project for the town. And that's what we're all here for. Am I missing anything as far as introduction? If not, I will turn it over to Peter and Rod. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So welcome everybody. Peter Bay will do the presentation most of the night, and I'll be available for questions. But just really want to thank the select board for allowing us to come in here. We do a lot of projects in Vermont and otherwise, and I can tell you that we don't usually get this set up, and chairs set up, and a PowerPoint and everything. So thank you very much. It's very respectful. We appreciate all the folks that are here. We welcome opportunity to get in front of you, and so we can get the facts of the project out and answer any questions you have face to face. That's the type of company we are, and again, Peter will go through that. But thanks for coming, and I guess we're going to hold questions to the end. So Peter will go through that, and we look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. And I'm Peter Bay. I'm a project developer with groSolar. Really quick, we just want to give an overview of groSolar as a company, and then get into some specifics about the project. Some of these slides are very similar to the ones that we actually had at our initial meeting with the select board back in late February? March. My dates. But yeah. Okay, so I'll just give a rundown of the agenda. Next slide is just a summary on groSolar. We've been in business for over 17 years now. We're headquartered in White River Junction, Vermont.
Peter, can you hold the mic closer?
Yep, sorry about that. Just let me know if I, yeah, let me know if I.
To your right.
There we go. Sorry. So we're headquartered in White River Junction, Vermont. We have a project office in Rutland as well, and another office in Columbia, Maryland. We've done over 2,000 plus projects nationwide. That sums up to around 125 megawatts worth of projects. Many of those are from back in our days when we were doing a lot more residential solar, but that gives you a kind of overview of our experience. We really take solar projects from cradle to grave. And by that I mean we go out, we identify sites, we assess their feasibility, we design them, and then we'll go ahead and conduct what they call EPC, which is engineering, procurement, and construction of that facility. Take it through system commissioning, and then typically we also like to be the long-term operations and maintenance provider for those facilities. And that's just really an overview of our typical set of services. So just as a project intro, this hasn't really changed from the last time that we presented, but we're leasing about 5 acres on Orchard Road for this project. Our intent is to install a 500 kilowatt fixed tilt array. That footprint is roughly around 4 acres at the moment. The tallest part of the structure as it's sitting on the ground is anticipated to be 8'6". Just to give you an idea of the height of the system. Once we're done, we will again plant grass and landscape the site to kind of make it look nice once again, and then The project will be surrounded by an 8-foot-high agricultural wire knot fence. The fences use wooden beams that are driven into the ground. You can imagine just that 8-foot fence with the wires, and then the wood beams are really what are most noticeable because the wire knot is black. So it's kind of visualization. The project is supposed to produce 900,000 kilowatt hours of electricity a year, which is roughly equivalent to 125 Vermont homes. If we're talking about carbon offsets, that translates to roughly 16,000 trees being planted annually. And the array is quiet and will not place any additional burden on town services. So by that we mean it doesn't require any special sewage permits or brought onto the site or any additional stormwater contributions. So this is difficult to see at the moment, but so this is just a Google Earth aerial image of the site. The green dot right in the middle of the property that is not intersected, but borders Westcott Road and Orchard Road is the area that we're intending to use for the project. And this is just an overview of what the site layout looks like at this moment.
And we can put these back up for questions if somebody wants to reference them.
Yep. So next slide. These are typical design considerations that we make whenever we're developing a project. For this site at the moment, we've engaged and had a wetlands consultant to the site who's then been accompanied by an employee of this state to confirm what she's assessed in terms of where wetlands could be on the site, and it was found that there are no wetlands on the site that we're using. Actually, we had intended to first use a site across the road on Orchard Road, and we found that there actually were wetlands there, so we thought it would be best to move the project over across the road onto its current location. The rare, endangered, and threatened species have been assessed for this project at a high level with the state. We reached out, notified them of our intent and the location of the project. They came back to us saying that they have no concerns at this time. We've also screened the project with the state Division for Historic Preservation. We typically show them the site and ask if they have any concerns at the moment. They do not have any concerns that they're aware of at the moment, but they're also waiting for us to produce the visual aesthetics report that we'll discuss a little later on before they provide their final inputs. So beyond that, there's no prime agricultural soils on the array footprint, which that is always something that we screen and evaluate when going into a project. In terms of clearing, we really do not anticipate that we'll be clearing any trees for this project. The location that we've sited the array actually just really has some scrubby undergrowth. It's tough to see, but this area, along with this area, has a couple of bushes that we'll need to remove for the installation of the system. And so this is just a high-level view of the project timeline. I'm not going to go into every one of these tasks, but at the current moment, we're somewhere between the submit 45-day notice in week 9 and the submit CPG petition in week 15. And so this is just a rundown of the various parties that we work with in putting together the certificate of public good application and respectfully permitting a project, addressing all parties that would like a voice and should be consulted with. In terms of aesthetics, I just mentioned a visual aesthetics report, and we've engaged with a firm called SE Group out of Burlington to really analyze the effect of the system on the surrounding area and produce a report that we can include in our certificate of public good application. So that analysis is underway. I just mentioned what we've done in terms of consulting the State Department of Historic Preservation at the moment. And so the next few slides are just going into a few of the concerns that we'd heard may have been brought up at the meeting that we actually were not able to make last month. So one was just in general health, and it seemed to us that there was a concern that components of the system might be left on site at the end of the operation. And we just wanted to address, it's stipulated in the lease agreement that we have that all the equipment associated with the system will be removed from the property at the end of the operation of the facility. Beyond that, the state also actually mandates that we have a plan in place to decommission and remove the system. So that's just how we address that. There was a note that we saw on electromagnetic radiation from the system, and we've heard these concerns in the past, and many solar developers have as well, and for that reason in 2015 the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, which is a state-funded agency, actually went out and studied this on much larger systems. So we're saying multiple megawatts, like 3 megawatt size systems. The study actually specifies the parameters of that system more clearly, but really the inverters are the only areas where EMF radiation may occur. And it was found that on these projects with much larger central inverters, roughly 6 times the size, that the exposure or the EMF that they were emitting was well below the recommended 833. I don't exactly know. I think that was milligrams, which is strange. I wasn't actually too familiar with that level. With the general public established by the International Commission of Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. This study further found that 50 to 100 feet away from those larger inverters, any EMF levels reached background levels. So just for reference, your cell phones emit EMF radiation. When we say background levels, that's right on par with those. Property values. We did not find any literature on property values and their effect from solar PV systems. What we did find was a 2009 study by the Department of Energy, which assessed property values in relation to 7,500 homes in proximity of 24 different wind-generating facilities, which, wind is largely considered more intrusive and I guess disruptive than a solar system. And to quote one of the takeaways from that report, neither the view of wind energy facilities nor the distance of the home to those facilities was found to have any consistent, measurable, and significant effect on the selling prices of nearby homes. One of the other concerns that was brought up were just surrounding renewable energy certificates. You can more commonly hear these as RECs. So for this system, approximately half of the energy in RECs that are produced are going to Goddard College. It's our understanding that Goddard has every intention of retiring those RECs in the state of Vermont. That being said, with the other half of the energy produced, the owner of that attribute would have the decision or the discretion to either retire those RECs in-state or sell them into another New England REC market. So that, just as a high-level overview, RECs help states meet their renewable portfolio standards. Each state of New England has them. Vermont has them going into effect in a binding way next year. So that's going to be a new market. And we don't really know how that market will perform yet. So it's really unclear what will happen to the RECs at this point. And beyond that, we'd just like to provide our contact information. We have a few of these remaining printouts that we're happy to give to however many people we can at the moment. And I'm also happy to send you the PowerPoint if you like that as well. But that's really all from our presentation. I think now the plan was to field any questions that the audience may have. I'm sorry.
We're conversing about whether we need more chairs.
There are 5
That's what I
chairs
saw,
up there.
was 5 right there. Well, you know what we can do? We'll move them to the back.
Now you're in the front row.
Ready to come back, but this will be the portion where we can ask questions. The select board has some questions, probably. You all may have some questions. So we'll move to that in just a moment after we solve the chair.
We have plenty of chairs right here, too.
Yeah. Nobody wants to sit down.
I can understand. I've felt that for many years.
Sit next to somebody else. I don't know. Making you feel better.
And I did take a shower today.
You want to start us off, Bernie?
Yes.
All right, so I think what we'll do, because our mic doesn't travel, I'm going to ask all of you, when you ask a question, maybe stand up and project so that we can all hear
Okay.
the question.
Okay, I have a question on your RECs. Is it your desire to sell the RECs to the state of Vermont, or does the state of Vermont obligate you to sell them to the state? Because there's also an international and a national market for them.
And so can you just, one more time at the beginning, you said there was one option where does the state of Vermont require us to sell the RECs to
the state
of Vermont?
Yes.
No, so for these types of projects, which are net metering projects, the RECs stay with the owner of the facility unless the owner of the facility sells them to another party. So the state does not mandate what the owner of the facility does with those RECs, but the owner can sell those to another party, and the other party can do with those RECs as they please, which is either retiring them within the state or selling them into another market throughout the state. That's really the one kind of option that.
Can you sell them to the commodities market?
And that's what I mean when I say sell it into the other state markets.
Okay.
It's really just, I don't know that it's specifically defined as a commodity market, but it's a rec market active throughout New England. Yes, sir.
The papers which many of us got refer to Orchard Road Solar 1, and attachment A has about a 30-acre area identified as the project parcel. Are there plans for a Orchard Road Solar 2 or 3, or why were 30 acres specified?
The original intent, or one of the choices we had on this project, on this parcel site, was a larger project, 4 times the size of this, a 2.2 megawatt speed project. You may be familiar with the speed program. But that is what really determines project size is what we say the stiffness of the Green Mountain Power lines. And this circuit isn't very robust. It's robust enough for a 500 kW system, but really not robust enough for a 2.2 megawatt system. that would require a large amount of money and upgrades, not only to the to reconductoring, but also to the substation, if possible at all. So what you see here is what will be there, because the project doesn't pencil out financially for a large project.
Just as a point of clarification on the same issue. So would the lease be for 5 acres or 10 acres?
The lease is for the project size.
For all 30 acres?
No. The lease is for the how's that? 5 acres.
Only 5 acres?
That's correct.
3.7 acres of panels placed on 5 acres of total land leased to groSolar. Period. Nothing more, nothing less.
Can't be or not the plan at the moment?
Can't be. Lease is signed and done. 5 acres, 3.7 acres of solar panels. Total project size, no further negotiations with groSolar beyond that point. And I was the one who initiated the contact with groSolar.
Do you want to use the mic? and
No,
tell
I
us a
think
little
people
bit?
can hear me.
Okay, all right. Can you hear him?
No.
No, the mic is good. I can hear you, but thank you.
You won't have any problem now.
My name's Dan Query. The total project is 5 acres with 3.7 acres of solar panels on 130 acres of land. So we're talking about 1.5%. It's not a lot, very small. That's the total project size. That's all the lease is for. I contacted groSolar, my wife and I, to do our part with renewable energy, not them contacting us. I know that's been a question of how did they find you and how did they find this place? They didn't find us. We sought them out, did some research on their past projects, talked to people that have used them, went and visited their projects, very impressed. They use local people to build it. They'll hire local electricians, a local excavating company. Very impressed with the way they've done business here in the state of Vermont. We sought them out.
Robin?
Two questions. One is just a point of clarification. When you were talking about the RECs, half of them would be allocated or sold to Goddard College. The other half would stay with the owners of the project. Is that you? Is groSolar the owner of the project?
Right, yeah, we are the owner right now. Whether we will be the long-term owner, that is up for debate.
So the project could be sold to another entity for
Yes.
long-term ownership.
And I will say, it's more than likely the project will be sold to another Vermont company that we're in discussions with.
My other question, I know you have the visual aesthetic screening study being done. But at this point, what are your plans for screening in terms of vegetation?
Good question. So, if you're familiar with the site, it's pretty hidden. There is one house about 300 feet in the woods, 400 feet, or 400 feet in the woods. And to be quite honest, we missed seeing that house in our original in our original screening of the site. Peter missed it. I missed it. I looked at it twice. I couldn't see it. And we were just up there just again tonight. And I'm sure when the leaves are gone, you can see the house through the woods, but leaf out you can't, at least not from the project site to the house. But with that said, we'll see what SE Group comes up with for visual mitigation. And right now we don't, there is a plan, there is a budget, but we don't have a plan because we don't tell SE Group what we want. We let SE Group tell us what they would do. And yes, we contract with them, but we never tell them, keep it to, I've been with groSolar 8 years. We've never said, keep it to 20,000 or 100,000 or whatever. They've always come back and said, here's the plan. This is what we think. This is probably what your budget should be.
Can I follow up on that?
Yes, we're going to do a question and a follow-up, and then we'll move to someone else.
So I live across the valley and I know the site well, went up walked around it last week, and I saw, I think, 5 or 6 houses, direct view from the site. Mine is not one of them.
Mine is.
Neil's is. And the screening actually seems very simple, because most people are looking up at it, so the screening can be low. And I guess I'm familiar with groSolar's reputation and work, but I guess I'm looking for confirmation that the screening will be effective for
Yeah, well,
people
I think what you guys are talking about, and
directly,
well, we're on the same.
from the side as well as across the valley.
Yeah, I understand the view you're talking about, and I agree that the way the site is situated and that the exposure to that valley is to the north of the project site, that makes it less likely that the project is seen because the panels are facing away from the valley. But with that said, there's already a pretty good hedgerow that we're not touching. And when we were up there tonight, we pointed out, I said, look, it's going to be really easy to augment those plantings on the north side and east side of the project site with spruce, or I usually say hemlock, but with the news of the last couple of weeks about hemlock, I don't know about hemlock. But with spruce, you know what I mean, something that is typical of that area, of that valley, of that hill. Again, I think the way the project is located, it's going to be easy to screen. So I guess that was my long answer. My short answer is, we've been around a long time. We plan to be around a long time. We got started here. We're national. We're going to do what's right. We usually do what's right. We'll share with you the screening plan. Meet with you at your house. We'll bring SE group to your house, and we can take pictures from there, and we can do simulations. We do that a lot for projects, and that usually takes care of it.
I'm going to come back to Dan, who...
I have a photo here standing in the middle of the solar field looking towards the north. And I can show it to Neil where he can't see his house. It's down lower to the river than where these panels are going to be. And it's right here.
Well, that's my father's.
Yeah, your father's. Anybody who
Mine
wants to
is
see it.
smack dab right out there.
We can see the great barn up behind your dad's place, but that's it. So I have it here in photo. We can zoom in. Anybody can look at it who wants to. I have the whole 360-degree view all the way around the valley from all 4 corners of the proposed project. It's all right here. So anybody wants to see what the actual view looking back at their place looks like, they can. It's here.
Anyone who hasn't spoken on the next, or go back to Richard?
Yeah,
Yeah, Richard.
thank you. I have some photos as well. And I don't think a 9-foot fence is going to block that view from across the way. But I have a question, it was a follow-up. My question is, what consideration have you given to the arsenic and other pesticides and insecticides that have been used for decades in the orchard? There are numerous studies which show that in projects such as these, when the soil is disrupted, to put in the gravel road, to put in the footings for the panels, to put in the underground conduits, that all of that toxicity is disrupted. There are springs up there. It is uphill of the Pulteney River. What were your concerns about being close to wetlands? I'm curious. Does it have to do with the cadmium in the panels?
So, we let Agency of Natural Resources take care of those concerns.
Say that again?
We allow the Agency of Natural Resources to take care of those concerns. That's the state agency that will be automatic party status to this project. And I would say if you have those concerns, you should certainly bring them up to ANR. We are not experts in, former apple orchards and what they used 20, 30 years ago for pesticides and soil disruption. But, I'm sure there are folks at ANR that are.
I used to own the orchard, so I know what was used
I
in it.
understand you did. Yep.
So it's there.
And you caused it, right?
No, I only ran it for 3 years, the Allens.
Caused it for 3 years.
Unknowingly, yeah. Oh, by the way, it's fine where it is. It's been done since the 1800s in every orchard in North America.
Aren't these panels, aren't the poles screwed into the ground rather than a concrete base and footing and
Yeah, so we,
that'll minimize the soil destruction?
yeah, so the question is basically how do we install the post? I suspect that there's going to be a little ledge up there. So typically we pile drive the post into the ground, and we don't like to use concrete. So typically we'll go up there, we'll do some pull-out tests, we'll do some soil borings, and then at that point we would expect to pre-drill for a lot of those posts, and then insert the post. I'm not promising there won't be any concrete used, but usually with drilling, pre-drilling, we can set it up from the ground.
There is a 12-foot wide gravel road as well as underground conduits planned to be put in. Is that not true?
There is a gravel road.
12 foot
access
wide.
Gate, about 12 feet wide, correct?
Right,
Yep, and underground conduit.
right. How
yeah.
long is the road?
Oh, I don't know. It must be, well, the setback is 100 feet, so it has to be at least 100 feet.
So there'll be some soil moved.
Yeah, there'll be some soil disturbance, no
okay.
doubt about it.
All right, Peter.
Yeah, so I would assume that because, I would assume, I didn't hear your initial presentation, but I would assume that you're going to have to remove trees and tree stumps in this process, and in doing so, there's going to be soil disruption.
Yeah. So we've since had this property surveyed, and basically our engineers at this point have kind of given us an idea of where we'll be grubbing, is what we call it, where there are bushes. There may be one small tree here. It wasn't totally clear to me from our discussion, but really there are very, very few trees that we anticipate removing, if any. Most of it, as I mentioned, is right along here where there are low-level bushes that we'll need to remove in order to slow the system.
And we don't need to stump the site. I mean,
Yeah,
right,
so-
like Peter said, it's mostly grubbing, what I would call grubbing. And I don't even know if there's a tree that you could classify as a tree that we're taking down. But if we did, we don't typically pull stumps.
So how is the drilling process going to take place? What kind of equipment do you use in the
Sure,
drilling
good
process?
question. So the question is, what kind of equipment do we use? So we come in with, it's a tracked vehicle. It's probably, I don't know, it's probably 8 feet long by 6 feet wide. It looks like it has a drill.
Yeah, I'm
hydraulic.
familiar with those. This is what you use to do blasting, drilling, right?
Yeah, similar.
Yeah, so they're
Yeah.
track vehicles, and when they move over the land, and it's, you know, there is disturbance in the land because of the track movement.
Probably not any more than if
Well,
we were mowing it.
excuse me for a second. I've been in construction for 30 years, and I do know that track equipment do disturb land.
And I
so
would suggest
it-
not any more than a tractor mowing that lawn. Mowing the land.
I'm sorry, but I beg to differ with you because I've actually done drilling and blasting on my sites in construction. I've done a lot of commercial construction, and I know that they do, and track equipment do disturb land.
Anyone else before we go back to Richard?
He didn't answer one of my questions from before. I asked what the original preferred site east of Orchard Road was abandoned due to concerns of it being too close to the wetlands. What are the concerns with a solar array related to wetlands?
So we didn't explain this enough. That area was classified as a class. You need?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So that area was classified as a Class 3 wetland that was connected further down to a Class 2 wetland. And by association, that therefore is a Class 2 wetland. So if you were to build in that wetland, you would need a wetland permit and also pay some pretty expensive costs to construct anything in that wetland.
So you're talking about the land as far south and east.
East.
Right here. If this
How,
legend weren't here,
yeah,
it's right over there.
how about further south? Are you saying that that's
Further
wetland?
south?
Further south.
We didn't explore
That's
this area.
north. That's
No,
north.
no, it's not.
Further south?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, like right here?
No. What would be right here?
Yeah, that was also wetland. Yeah. So that whole area was a wetland, according to the state.
Okay.
Okay, first off, now I'm confused. Where is the query house on this map?
Yeah, sorry. So
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm getting my north-south.
No, that's okay. I thought it was up
Further.
there. You're talking about dismantling this. What is the age of it? How long is this thing going to be for?
So we typically anticipate that they'll be operational for between 25 to 35 years.
Okay.
30 years is the more likely scenario.
And you may or may not, from other projects. How are these things assessed? Is this value on this thing by the state? Or is it by the town assessors?
So that's a great question. So a couple years ago, the Vermont Leagues of Cities and Town came up with a PV value tool. It was actually produced by Sandia National Labs, and the tool was actually produced for residential assessment for solar. Vermont took the tool and adapted it for commercial installations. So the local assessors works with Vermont Leagues and Cities and Town and the developer to get the correct numbers. They put a valuation to the project, and then the municipal tax is levied for the municipal level, and then for the state tax, solar projects in Vermont are charged at $4 per megawatt. A $4 per megawatt education tax that goes directly to the state. So this project will be paying $2,000 a year into the state education fund. And then, what did we come up with? About 2,200? About
$2,500 to $3,000. It says on the
yeah, $3,000-ish for municipal taxes.
Now, is this land taken away from Mr. Quarry's property, and so like his property becomes 30 acres or 5 acres less? Or is it
No.
still, okay. So you're just basically having a tax on the equipment and stuff?
That's right.
I wanted to go back to the screening around the project site there. You're proposing spruce trees or something like that around it?
I don't know.
What's the age of the trees? 'Cause I think the big thing for many of us is the view. You can see that parcel all the way from the east of town to the west of town. And I think if you're talking about mature trees to screen it on the north, and I believe you said east sides of it.
Yeah, so I think most of the views would be from the north and to the east. And typically we propose 8 to 10 foot trees when planted, and then obviously they'll grow from there.
And how long is the lease period? 20 years, something like that? 10 years?
25 years with 2 5-year options.
Say again?
What was that?
25 years with 2 5-year options.
After that.
After the initial
After
25.
the initial 25. So you're talking. So by the end, 35 years from now, you probably have a 50-foot tree there or something.
Yep.
50 footers around it. Is that going to block the sun? In the summer like this, the sun is way in the back of us, coming around and sets way down to the almost northwest. As the trees grow, is that going to cut down on your production of electricity from the project?
When we do those plantings, we'll take that into consideration.
So you want a shorter tree then?
Well, no, we'll put them further away from the array.
And that's still on the 5 acres, or would that be off the 5 acre site?
We'll have to take a look at the parcel site. You know, the other consideration here is this is downslope, so those trees may not have to be as high. So we kind of get back some we take advantage of the slope there too.
Right. I mean, the whole screening, I can see screening it with the fence and the small trees to block a view from the road. But that being, Vermont and Middletown, is nothing but hills. So you got a downslope going one way, you got a downslope coming the other way. I mean, that's a hollow, and it's like being in an amphitheater or something. Stack seating going up, the farther up you get, even if you had a 50-foot tree, it's not going to block out, 5 acres of solar panels.
Right. So the key word is there. The intent of the screening is not to block the project. We will never be able to totally 100% block the project from view. That's just impossible. We'll do the best we can to mitigate the view, taking everything into account.
I see there's someone else. Anybody new want to ask a question? Here.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the decommissioning part. It's 25 to 30 years that it's going to be around. But you guys might not be around, and you might sell it to somebody who isn't as responsible. I'll be 95 if I'm alive, so I personally don't really care. I'll be sitting on the back of my house, probably trying to, I don't know, eat my ponds. But I'm concerned for future generations that this is going to be decommissioned responsibly, and that somebody is going to be there to take care of that. I don't have a lot of faith in the word mandated by the state. For whom?
Yeah.
Who is going to be in
You're
control?
doing a good job of reviewing questions,
So that's a great question. We get asked this all the time about the decommissioning fund for solar projects. And then, so prior to 2016, a decommissioning fund was only required for projects 1 megawatt and bigger. So a project double the size of this. And generally the bar is about $50,000 per megawatt. And that is secured by a bank line of credit or letter of credit in the name of the Public Service Board. So the state of Vermont basically has the rights to disperse that money. Nobody else, not me, not my company, nobody. So starting in 2016, new legislation is put in place with, I think it was in S230, Senate Bill 230, and it's also in the new net metering rules. So all projects 500 kW and larger need to have a decommissioning fund. So the state will mandate that decommissioning fund. I suspect it'll be about $25,000, $30,000. And that decommissioning fund, we are not allowed to take salvage value, meaning, if I take that system off right now, I can recycle the glass, I can recycle the aluminum, I can recycle the steel in the ground, I can recycle the copper. I can't account for that. I have to do, what is it going to cost to remove everything at full value. So, there's a letter of credit in the name of the Public Service Board, State of Vermont, and we can't touch it. And it has to be in place before we do any site prep. Now, I'll just caution, we will be on that site, in the next 30 to 60 days to do some soil borings. That's not considered site prep, and so I can do that before our CPG. So, just if anyone sees us out there, don't call me out, please.
Elizabeth.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but S230 has not passed yet. It has not been signed into law yet. And it looks like it may not be. So if that bill is not passed, if that legislation is not passed, does that mean that it would go back to that you do not have to have the decommissioning fund?
So you're right, Senate Bill 230 has passed, but the governor is threatening a veto due to the wind noise. I believe, and we can double check this, I believe the decommissioning for 500 kW and larger, and it might even be 150s and larger, is in the new net metering rules as well for next year. So either way, we're going to be, combined. And also, I believe we have it in a lease with Dan as well that we're going to take that project out, which isn't typical. We don't. I don't know who orchestrated that, but that's not typically in our leases. See, he's looking at it.
Just a follow-up. If you do sell the project, will the person who purchased it from you be held to that decommissioning?
Good question. The letter of credit has to be transferred and approved by the Public Service Board before the sale of the project can happen.
Follow up on this and then another question. Follow up on this and then another question. How many sites have you decommissioned?
So we wouldn't decommission a project until its useful life is over, and so we haven't.
That's zero.
That's zero.
Where did you come up with a number of $25,000 to $50,000? Everything I read is substantially higher than that.
Actually, we think it's probably lower than the $50,000 per megawatt. That we didn't come up with that number.
Per megawatt, and this is a
half a megawatt.
This is a half.
That's right.
What do you think your cost will be to put it in?
Our cost to put in this project will be about 1.5 million, 1.3 million.
But it's only 25 to get rid of it.
Well,
even though it's full of cadmium and all of that, and you've never done one.
Right.
But you think 25 will cover what cost $1.5 million
so
to
the
put
state
in.
has come up with that through research as sort of the baseline, 50 grand per megawatt.
Interesting. That's not, if you look at this online and you read about sites that have been decommissioned of this size or even smaller, it's much more than that. How many meters in Middletown Springs will get power from this project?
So, no, these are not net metered to any residents in Middletown Springs.
Oh, okay.
I'm also curious, Mr. Spitalny, would you mind, you mentioned a lot of different data points, it seems.
I'll send them to you gladly.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind sending those
Sure, Peter.
sources, just because we don't know if they're, a blog somewhere.
No, these are, same thing with the property values. You said you couldn't find any?
Department of Energy.
Well, I can show you several where the property values go down between 4 and 7% minimum. I had a realtor up there, as soon as he found out what was going on, he said, I have to tell everybody who asks me, who's interested in property in Middletown Springs, I have to tell them, to wait. I'm recommending to all of them that they don't buy land or buy a residence until this is sorted out, because, they could find that their view is radically different. So, I mean, that's, that's a personal experience, let alone the studies I've read.
Actually, going to the question of how many meters in Middletown Springs will be using this electricity. My understanding of net metering is that the benefit of net metering is it's locally generated, locally used. Half of it may be allocated to Goddard College, but the electrons don't travel. They're fed into the grid here, and they're used here.
That's right.
And so the part of the savings, part of the benefit of net metering to the state is not needing to build out transmission, because it's used here, or generated here and used here.
And that metering, it avoids a power purchase agreement as well.
The power purchase agreement is one
Yeah.
form of contract, net metering
Yeah,
is another.
which isn't happening in this case.
The electricity isn't magically being put on a truck and shipped to Goddard College. Where it's going into the system, it's coming to Middletown. It's not going to flow against the current. Okay, the main transformers and the power is coming from Poultney. That's where the giant high voltage yard is. The lines come down the Poultney River. We're going into it there. everybody who lives on this side of the orchard could proudly say that you're using renewably generated electricity. Because the power's coming this way. 150 houses here in Middletown are going to get the electricity from that field. It's not being loaded onto a truck. It's not, it's all this semantics of the government of giving credit. Who gets credit for what we're doing in Middletown? But we all know it's the electricity staying right here. It's all being used by us.
The papers say 109 homes. Now you say up here 125 homes. Dan says 150 homes. I mean, factually, there are things all over the place here that are hard to understand.
What's the average home? And you probably don't use much electricity if you're not there very much. So that's
According to the town plan, 1% of electricity is used for heating homes here. So it's a very small benefit. And I know that one of the landowners, contiguous with the project, was told that they will get no benefit because the wires are going the wrong way.
Just to further Dan's point there, electricity is like water. It's like pouring, you take 2 buckets of water and pouring them into a third bucket. It just mixes, and you can't load it on a truck like he says and ship it somewhere. You have a 500 kilowatt project proposed. Is that in your? Are you limited to 500 kilowatts, or are you limited? I mean, we know that it's a 3.7 or 5 acres or whatever. Are you guys, for the term of this lease, limited to 500,000 kilowatts? Because I mean, everybody knows how technology is. 10 years from now, solar panels, they could have one that generates twice as much per footprint size. Are you guys going to be putting out 1 million?
No, the permit's limited to 500 kW.
That's it.
Period.
For 35 years up to it.
That's it. Yep.
All right.
You're going to be the original owner and developer of the system. So have you, or do you know whether you're entitled to any kind of funding from the federal government or the state government?
So there's a 30% investment tax credit will be available for the project. And then I believe there's a 7% in-state Vermont investment tax credit as well for a Vermont owner or somebody who has Vermont tax liability. But there's no, people are most familiar with the incentives for residential consumers. There's nothing like that for commercial projects.
So as a corporation, you get the credit of that 7% from the state?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions you're sitting on? Give you a chance. Sure.
So I also live right across the valley with these guys, and I will definitely have an opportunity to see the array. It's a beautiful piece of land I look out on every day when I come out of my house. But I would rather have clean energy produced in my front yard than a dirty power plant polluting someone else's backyard. So I'm supporting the project.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just, what's the life expectancy of the panels?
So we expect the panels so the panels have a 25-year product warranty. So we would expect them to go that long, which isn't to say, we're not going to have to replace a panel or two here or there. But we fully expect these panels to go 35 years. There's been panels out there since early 70s. Back in 2010, we had DuPont in our office, and we went around and talked with some folks and actually grabbed panels and had them tested, and they're still performing really, really well.
Because I guess my point is that if at some point down the road, 20 years from now or something, the panels need to be replaced, is there any possibility, as far as you guys see it, to reduce the footprint of the project area if a panel in 20 years is 4 times as powerful as they are now or something,
Sure. I mean, technology your panel efficiency, grows that much. And if it's cost effective, perhaps.
Well, how much has it grown since the 70s, the panels you're talking about that are still active?
Oh, probably 400 or 500%.
So it's reasonable to assume that it probably would again in another 30 years.
Perhaps, yes. I mean, I guess I hope so.
So would you guys consider reducing, at some point, reducing the project footprint if you can still put out your 500 kilowatts?
That could be a consideration.
Sure.
So I'm very supportive of small-scale solar on individual houses, and I'm wondering if as part of this project there'd be any outreach to people who might be interested in doing some, installing a project like that, but at 1 or 2 panels, and if you guys ever do those types of, that type of outreach or education within communities.
Yeah, so I think we're talking about community solar.
Well, or just each house maybe have, I don't know, but each house having a couple of panels that, support that house may or may not be, would probably be grid tied, I don't know.
There are companies in Vermont doing that. I think Sun Common, Catamount Solar, same Son of Vermont, good local companies. We usually deal with a more commercial customer than we do residential type of customer. But there are companies doing that.
And you were mentioning education opportunities. I know for a while we were, that was something that went with installations. I'd love to, come by if it's a classroom or anything, just presentations, spread information.
I was just wondering what type of panels you guys are going to be using, and if it's a dual axis tracker, single mount, or what do you guys are?
This is a fixed array, so they're not the sort of the sunflower dual axis trackers that are very, very tall. It's not that. This is also not a single axis tracker. Usually we like a very, very flat site to use single axis tracker. We're doing one up in Vermont, much larger than this. So these are going to be fixed tilt array. As for a panel, we use a tier 1 panel, whether it's Canadian Solar or LG, JA Solar, somebody like that.
I know on our select board we have differing opinions too, and I think one of the statuses that is out there is concerned party. I don't know if I have the right terminology, but adjoining property owners are concerned properties, and as a select board, I think we have the opportunity to be a concerned party as well. Some would like it, some would not. I don't know what the feeling of the town is, but my understanding that a concerned party gives you access to all information that's coming out of groSolar. Is that right?
That's correct. And I believe whether you choose to have party status or not, I believe we still have to send you all the information being the town.
Hi. My view is right there. And
I'm sorry, so you're on the north side of the site?
yeah. And we love it. And I also support solar. So, I'm just imagining the worst, though, so. But I'm not right next to it. And there are some people here whose houses are right next to this or would be right next to it. And I have really good hearing, and the slightest little noise drives me nuts. So, does this make any sound? If it makes sounds, why does it make sound? Where does it come from? Just little hums could drive you nuts in the middle of the night if your house was next door to it.
Great question. And the key word there is at night when the sun's not out. So the array is only producing and working when the sun's out. At night, it is silent. And during the day, the only thing that emits noise is the inverters and a low hum from a transformer. And so I think the state regs is we can't be more than 45 dBA, and I'll get this wrong, to a property line. but the property line, yeah. And I don't know if you know what 45 dBA is, but it's incredibly low. So at night, the person closest, the resident closest to this project won't hear anything because the site's not running. It's not operating. And during the day, you still won't hear anything. You have to be pretty close to hear anything on this project, even during the day.
Is 50 feet close enough to hear it?
50 feet? You would probably hear the transformer at 50 feet.
So the people who have the 10 acres contiguous, where the setback is only 50 feet, they haven't built their residence yet, but they are planning to now that he's retiring, they might hear it, let alone stare right into it.
And again, that noise level, the noise level coming from the main road would probably be higher than that noise level.
Would there be any screening on the west side, seeing how there's a new residence that's going to be built there?
Yeah, my understanding is that gentleman's owned that property for a long time, and I don't know if there's any plans for a residence.
He does, 2005. I don't know if that's such a long time.
Yeah.
He's just retiring now.
We can certainly look at, doing plantings there. If there's a house that gets built and there's a screening requirement.
Will that hum be as loud as what we're hearing right here? It's about like a dishwasher, not the top of the line dishwasher, correct?
I would say probably lower than a dishwasher.
What?
It's probably lower than a dishwasher.
Yeah, well, it depends.
I think 45 dBA is library noise.
Ours is like 39. We don't hear it. But what I'm concerned of is we're on the west, and I'm north.
You're on the west side?
South.
You must be on the east side of the site.
We're as you come up Coy Hill Road, we're on the west side going to.
They're southeast.
You're on the east.
So there he is.
You're down here.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, you won't, I know where you are. You're not going to hear this thing at all.
All right, because of the wind pattern, there's prevailing south wind, isn't it, though?
You wouldn't believe how silent these are. We were just at our 1 megawatt project in Rutland, and now the wind was blowing a little bit, but we were probably 50 feet away from that transformer, and we had, we were pumping some KW today, and we couldn't hear it.
The reason I ask is we can hear people in certain conditions in the orchard, and also we hear the cows down below, and we hear in some wind patterns significant noise from the main road.
From what?
The main road.
The main, yeah. So the main road and people are louder than this project.
Right, but it all comes up in certain air patterns, so that's why I'm asking.
Right. And just another point. I'd like to point this out because these projects get a lot of bad rap for where they go and stuff. But you can put a project like this here that's quiet. Granted, it's it's not a house, but then again, it's not a 5,000 square foot house with cars coming and going, people barbecuing on the deck, kids playing basketball, playing in the pool, lots of kids. So I always like to make sure you know the context because it's a beautiful piece of property and there could be there's a lot of folks that can afford putting up a beautiful house up there. So if you look at this project in context, once we're out of there, the project is going to take probably 10 weeks to build. After that, we monitor it remotely. We monitor the data so we know if something's going on up there. If there's nothing going on up there, we come and check on it once a month. That's all the traffic you're going to see. And there's nobody to, we're not going to dispatch the local police. We're not going to dispatch the fire department, ambulance service. I mean, it doesn't take any services. And it's a really good neighbor. It's probably the neighbor I want. It's nice and quiet.
I was just going to say, in terms of noise, a high-end car cruising at 70 miles an hour, 63 to 65 decibels, like the Lexus, BMW, Mercedes, that's considered fault-like according to car rating, car office, just to give you an idea of the level they're talking about.
So what you were just talking about, that there's no, I guess my question is about maintenance. So how often would you have to be there for maintenance? And that includes things like mowing, or I don't know with these panels if you have to do snow removal, or how does it all work?
So, take those one at a time. So we have an O&M. We have a gentleman that does O&M based in Barre, Vermont. So he goes around to all of our sites in New England. He will probably check on the project. If we don't get any bells and whistles, he'll probably check on the project once a month, just to make sure everything's fine. We will probably mow up there. We're pretty conscious about the bird habitat, if there is any, but we like to play it on the safe side if there's any bobolink or red-winged blackbird, something nesting. So we'll probably mow at the end of the nesting season, which is August 15th, and maybe once again in October. So that's what you'll see for mowing and maintenance at the project site. As far as snow removal, we rarely remove snow, and if so, we don't remove it from the panels. We remove it from the leading edge of the panels so the snow can slide off. We've only had to do that once in my 8 years at groSolar, and that was 2 winters ago.
So I guess an additional question to that is that, excuse me, I just lost it. Sorry, just lost it.
When you say mowing, there could it be approximately 2,268 panels, approximately 9 feet tall. How do you get, I mean, when you look at how close they are, how do you get in there to mow, or is it one of those weed whacker things, or?
They'll use a mower and a weed whacker, being careful of, everything's in a conduit, all the wiring's in a conduit. So if it's getting close to the bottom of the panels, they'll knock it down with a weed whacker.
No sprays categorically?
No. Nope.
Okay, so I remembered. And it sort of ties into the maintenance. I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to put this in words. Never mind.
Sign language?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be articulate, just what's the basic idea?
No, I'll come back to it if I can.
I'm actually going to go right behind you.
Stormwater. That's what it is.
Well, I had some other questions and they've already been answered.
Okay.
I was going to ask if you're going to use herbicides and pesticides.
Can you stand up so we can hear you?
Oh, sorry.
Did you get it?
Oh, do I have to?
I think the question was whether we were going to use herbicides, and we answered that.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that. But I'm still concerned about the cadmium that all solar panels are made with, and you said it's recyclable, most of it. So what do you do with that?
So, as I said, we haven't had to recycle any of these projects yet. And, that will be 25, 35 years down the road. I can't answer that.
So mine is stormwater.
It's kind of like the contact fluorescence of mercury.
Yeah.
And it's one of the top 6 most toxic elements known to man.
And I can tell you that there will be, at the end, in 35 years, there will be a whole boatload of recycled panels, and I'm sure there will be methodology to deal with it all.
All right, yes, your turn.
You talked a little bit earlier about their fixed panel units. What's the degree of angle on them? And are they going to create glare for people on further up south? Or the guy that has the 10 acres that wants to build his house, is he going to be like looking right into the sun?
So, what did we do? 25 degrees or 30 degrees? 30. Yeah, 30-degree tilt is what we're proposing right now. We need to look at production, and we may go 25 degrees. But as far as the glare, these all have the anti-reflective coating on them. Just to note, these projects you've probably seen if you fly a lot and go into airports. These projects are all over airports, and if there's anywhere that there's a problem, it's at airports. We did the project at Vermont International Guard. And they're flying in and out there all the time, and those guys made sure that glare wasn't an issue. So,
and back to that, the thing with the cadmium. How do these panels hold up under like a severe hailstorm?
Yeah, good question.
Or lightning, or
yeah. So we had an event about 3 years ago in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. it was I can't remember, it may have been Sandy. It may have been Sandy. And we had large projects, dispersed. We didn't have one panel broken, not one. Not only did it not fly off, but there's hail event as well, not one, which was amazing. So, 100-year event, and everything stayed put. The thing that we worry about the most is, flying objects, right? Everything stayed put, and we had 20, 30 megawatts out there.
When you answer definitively, oh, these panels will have anti-glare, how can you say that when throughout your documents it says that this is all preliminary, none of this is final, it's all subject to market conditions and decisions yet to be made?
So as far as the panel goes, we can send you a spec sheet.
I have the spec sheet, but I was told that it's not necessarily what will be used because this is not part of the petition. This is in the 45-day, and I can cite from a document yourself where you say it's, subject to market.
So the way we word that is, the panel spec we give the Public Service Board is a representation of a Tier 1 panel that we could use. All Tier 1 panels. And I don't want to go as far as saying every single panel. Just about every panel that we would use would have the same anti-reflective spec. And I can send you the spec sheet of the 6 or 7 vendors we use. If that would...
No, that's one of the reasons why I think it's so important that the town, which you say, even without intervening, will get all of the documentation yet to follow if you decide. I know the aesthetic study hasn't been finished. I am assuming that the Queechee analysis will be done. I don't know if you've read the town plan. There are some there are some bylaws that were changed not that long ago dealing with, they were to address cell towers, but they would absolutely apply to this. So assuming that you find that you pass, I don't know how you could, the Queechee analysis, but if, the experts that you're hiring say, and you move forward with a petition, I think that's why it's so important that the town be sure to get the documents filed and everything that is subsequently filed over that 21-day period, because none of what we've received so far is anything but preliminary.
That's correct. That's the intent of the 45-day notice.
To give us preliminary. It's not the same as what will be in the petition. I'm correct, am I not?
That's correct. That's the intent.
Okay.
We've been here for an hour. These folks have been very patient. We've had a lot of good comments. I thank you very much. Every time we have one of these things, we always have 1 or 2 people that want to keep this thing going for another 2 hours. I don't think we have. I think we can thank you very much.
Excuse me.
I'm just going to ask, thank you very much, Don. I was just going to ask one question, that maybe you could explain the next phase. We're in the 45-day comment period. You could explain to all of us, or me, the next step, the 21-day comment period, I believe. The next steps, anyway, would be helpful.
Right.
I think we can wrap it up.
So we reissued our 45-day notice because we had made a mistake on the distance to the nearest home. So we felt, and our legal felt, that we should just reissue that. So I believe that comment period, I think that period ends June 27th. So I think we're on track to file the full petition on June 27th. All we have left to wrap up is SC Design Group, I think, is the aesthetic study. Yeah. So you could probably expect the 45-day notice to be filed before July 4th holiday. That would be our goal.
You mean the petition?
The petition, yes. And then so from there, let's see. So this is a 500 feet over. So from there, they will issue a scheduling order on what the procedure is going to be. And that scheduling order probably comes out 21 days or so.
We will get certified
letters once your petition is filed?
Yes.
So we know that the process has started and it's time to get our act together if we're going to intervene.
Right.
Or give comments in terms of our expectations of the town. And then, from what I understand, that also applies to anybody who's in a butter. And if there are comments or concerns or questions, then that's each of your chance to do the same thing. So I just want to make sure that everyone who is in a butter, if they have concerns, are proactive about it and don't push their concerns off onto the town to take care of, maybe what their concerns are. The town's going to have their own concerns and they're going to have their own comments, and we're not in a butter. We're not necessarily going to be visually impacted. So I would just encourage anyone who is in a butter to be proactive and take those steps on their own as well.
So, are you closing this meeting or you want to go longer?
If we have some unique topics, questions that haven't been asked before, we were getting into a period where we had a bunch of examples.
All right.
We
So
got some
it's
new
a brand new,
questions.
we've got new, all right, we'll cross the line.
Okay.
One thing that hasn't been addressed is the upgrading the service up to the site. I'm assuming you'd have to upgrade to three-phase. There's a single phase going up there. Can you just give us an idea what that would look like?
Yeah, so we've met on site with Green Mountain Power a number of months ago, just to get a feel for their, kind of how they envision that upgrade taking place. And essentially, you can't see it on this map, but there are a number of poles going down to 140, and those poles will be upgraded. It was told to us that they would be in the very, not same spot, but a very similar location. The poles that you can see on the plan are the locations that were specified by Green Mountain Power at this point for three-phase service. So this pole right here at the corner of Westcott and Orchard Road, it should be, around 20 feet from that intersection. I think there may be an existing pole there. At the moment, I can't completely remember, but
There is.
from here we cross over onto the other side of Westcott Road and have 3 poles leading up to the access driveway. The last pole will be adjacent to the array and the access drive, which is where the transformers will be as well.
Can I add something to that? There are existing poles that go out Westcott Road already to service houses, and those poles, the new poles, will take the place. So it's not a gain of 10 poles.
Yeah.
There's no gain. There's no nothing. New poles are going in. Old poles are coming out. The difference is there's 3 wires on the top instead of 2 on the sides.
They will generally be replaced in place or very close to in place. They'll have a cross arm on top. They'll be similar to what's along Route 1.
How about height?
They might not have the cable TV.
So you're saying no new poles?
Yeah, it's going to be
All right.
old out, new ones in. No net gain of poles.
Will the new poles be taller?
Yes, new poles will be taller.
We'll just add a note on what Patty said. So Patty, this pole right next to the access drive, that one, along with obviously the pole that's on the Queries property further up the access drive, those are the 2 new ones. And our understanding of this pole at the corner of the access drive is it may be replacing a pole further down the line. So again, that needs to be figured out, but those technically are new locations.
A question about the 3-phase business here. Just what happens, the poles from the array to the east and to the north are being replaced?
Correct.
To the
north,
east and then north to 140?
correct.
Those are 3-phase?
They will be.
Will be. What happens to the poles going up Westcott Road to the west?
beyond
Yeah.
the project site.
Yeah.
Those will remain.
Is there an issue with it being three-phase from 140 to there, but not, I mean, do they, the same wires that are there now going west will be tied into this new three-phase?
And so we run through an interconnection process with Grid Mountain Power. They evaluate all of this on their end according to the information that we provide them based on the system. And so they ensure that, I believe the industry standard word or phrase is there will be no adverse impact to the manner in which they operate the electrical grid.
Going west?
No, just
I mean, going west and
over the
anywhere.
entire area.
It'll be transparent to everybody.
In terms of their analysis.
It will never know that it changed.
Yeah.
Right.
Further up Westcott Road will still be single-phase line, it'll just be one leg of three-phase line.
All right, so unless there's a uniquely new question, or two,
Yeah.
three, you've asked, I'm going to go,
Yes.
so go ahead, you haven't spoken at all. And we're going to
You talked about wetlands and birds and stuff. Has there been any studies done on the impact of these solar farms with bees, the honeybees?
Not that we've conducted. I don't know if that's a requirement of A&Rs at all. I would be shocked, but no, that has not been studied.
I actually had a comment for the audience. So town planning is an iterative process, and the town plan gets updated pretty constantly. The Planning Commission is actually beginning a new update right now, so if you want to become involved in the process, or you have concerns that you think would translate well into wording in a town planning document, I would encourage all of you to get involved. I haven't seen that there's been a lot of participation at Planning Commission meetings. It would be great to have more people there.
would you happen to be on the planning commission?
Well, I'm kind of a junior member, but yes.
Who else? Just so we know.
We have Tom and John.
Okay. All right.
Thank you all for being, thank you for your time. It's our time, but it's your time too, and the Red Sox are on, but hopefully they beat Baltimore. But again, we love this, the audience and the forum and having these conversations, because we'd rather have a conversation directly with you than through the papers or through the Vermont Digger or hearsay or third hand. You have our contact information. I can give you my card. Call us directly. We'd be more than happy to, meet you here, meet you at our office in Rutland, invite you to White River Junction. Again, we've been around a long time. We take a lot of pride in the work we do from beginning to end. So we're here to answer your questions.
Could I follow up on your comment about the town plan?
Me.
Yeah. No, it's just, I think it is important because they're updated every 5 years. The current plan was adopted March 6th of 2012. And let me just say, the town plan, it is a statement of the objectives that a community has chosen to guide its future growth and land use. So it speaks exactly to this point. So anybody who has concerns, and let me just end by saying, generally, I am pro-solar and renewable energy. I just have some issues with this particular siting. So I wanted to thank you also for the opportunity to share information.
On behalf of the select, can I speak on behalf of the select board? I just want to thank you all for spending time here tonight to ask questions, to get more informed. I thank the queries for coming out. We didn't have to do that. We appreciate your time. Thank you to the two of you. It's been really informative. And thank you for being nice. This is my first moderation in my term. So thank you.